We, the people. It's probably the most famous phrase in American history, right? And I think for most of us, myself included, when you hear those words, you immediately picture,
The parchment paper, the powdered wigs.
Exactly.
Oh.
Quill pens, guys sweating it out in a Philadelphia summer. It feels like this piece of high-minded poetry, a bit abstract.
It feels like a history lesson. Something you memorize for a test and then, you just file it away.
Right. Does it feel functional when you're stuck in traffic on a Tuesday? Not really. But the sources we're diving into today argue that we've basically been misreading those three words for generations.
That's the part that really hooked me. The argument is that we the people wasn't just rhetoric. It was, for all intents and purposes, a business plan.
A business plan.
A blueprint for economic scaling.
Okay, scaling. That sounds a lot more like Silicon Valley than 1776.
Right.
So let's unpack that. You're saying the founders were thinking about market share?
In a way, yeah. I mean, think about it. They weren't trying to manage a bunch of disconnected households all fighting for scraps.
It's a zero-sum game.
Right. They were trying to create a cooperative. They understood a really basic economic idea. If you pool your resources, if families and towns and states all align, you can build things at a scale that I, the person, could never dream of.
I, the person, can build a barn.
Exactly. But we, the people, can build a nation. And the proof is, look at what that mindset produced. We're not just talking about laws.
We're talking about the physical country.
The power grid, the railroad system, the interstate highways, airports, the internet. These are massive, complex systems that require a we to even exist.
You don't get the Hoover Dam if everyone's just worried about their own backyard. That's a great point. And it obviously worked. That mindset built a superpower. But, and this is the huge but that drives our whole deep dive today, something in that machine is broken.
The connection's been severed.
Yeah, because our mission today is to figure out why national success no longer seems to translate into local prosperity. Why does the average family feel like they're working harder than ever just to fall behind?
Even when the news is telling them the economy is booming, it's the central paradox.
It is. And the sources we have suggest we've forgotten how to use the we to actually benefit the me. We become resources to be harvested.
Which is a pretty dark thought to start with, but we have to go there.
We do. Let's start with that macro versus micro problem, because I turn on the news and it's all GDP is up, unemployment is down.
Record highs on the S&P 500.
Right. But then I talk to my neighbors and they're worried about the price of eggs or what happens if their car breaks down.
And that's the clash. The source material puts it so bluntly. I love this line. National GDP doesn't pay your rent.
So the real economy doesn't live in Washington, D.C.
No. The economy lives where people live. And this gets us to a core concept in all this research. The modern village. And I know when people hear village, they think of, something quaint. Thatched roofs and a blacksmith.
Yeah, I'm picturing a Hallmark movie set or something vaguely medieval.
Right. But in this context, the village is just your town, your city, the actual physical place where you live your life. And the main argument here is that the American town is the most underutilized economic engine in the world.
Underutilized feels like a very polite word for it.
Yeah.
A lot of towns feel like they're just broke, struggling to fix potholes.
That's the perception. We see scarcity, we see struggle. But let's look at the actual data from the text, because this part, it really blew my mind. You take a typical American town, you add up the combined annual spending power of every single household. What do you think you get?
All of it together. Millions, for sure.
Try billions.
Billions?
Yeah.
With the B.
Billions. Every single year. Just do the math. A town of, say, 40,000 people. Think about what they spend on housing, groceries, gas, insurance, healthcare. It creates this massive, massive pool of wealth.
So you're telling me my town, which feels like it's struggling to keep the lights on, is actually sitting on a gold mine.
The source calls it a sleeping giant. And this is the key part. This isn't Wall Street money. It's not some government grant that could disappear. It is local family money. It's already there.
Okay, but then that doesn't add up.
Yeah.
If my town has billions of dollars flowing through it, why are there empty storefronts on Main Street? Where's the money going?
And now we're at the absolute heart of the problem. We have to talk about the leaky bucket.
Love a good metaphor. I'm guessing this isn't a slow drip.
It's a gusher. It's catastrophic. So imagine your town's economy is a bucket. Those billions of dollars, that's the water that gets poured in every year. And Historically, let's say up to the 1970s, that bucket was pretty solid.
The money stayed in town.
Right. You get paid, you go to the local butcher, he'd use that money to pay the local mechanic, the mechanic pays the local piano teacher, the money circulated, it had velocity.
So $1 did the work of $5 or $6.
Precisely. It was a classic Main Street economy. But then, starting around the 70s, a structural shift happened. Big box retailers, national chains.
Eventually, the internet.
The ultimate leak. They all punched holes in the bottom of the bucket, and the source cites a statistic that I swear I had to stop and reread it because I didn't believe it. In many American towns today, the leakage rate is estimated at 95%.
Wait, hold on. 95.
95%. For every dollar that comes into the town through a paycheck, 95 cents leaves the community almost immediately.
That is just staggering. So that town with $5 billion in spending power.
Only about $100 million of it actually sticks around to benefit the people living there. The other $4.9 billion, gone, whoosh. Up and out to corporate headquarters, to shareholders who couldn't find your town on a map.
We're basically strip mining our own communities.
In a purely economic sense, yes. But the source is really careful here. This isn't about blaming anyone.
Right. I'm not some villain because I shop online or go to the big grocery store. It's convenient. I'm busy.
Exactly. Nobody is twisting a mustache. It's a systems problem. It's a result of a lack of awareness. We've been trained to see spending as just a transaction. I give money, I get stuff. End of story. We don't see it as an investment in our own community.
But when 95% of the capital leaks out, it creates a vacuum.
And nature abhors a vacuum. When local wealth evaporates, outside capital rushes in to fill that void. And this is where we start to see the real-world consequences.
Yeah, I was reading the section on the housing market, and honestly, it was terrifying.
The stats are alarming.
The idea that large investment funds are now buying 1 out of every 4 homes in some markets. They're not buying them to live there. They're assets. They're treating our homes like stocks.
And it's not just houses. Nearly half of all U.S. farmland is controlled by large funds or national entities now.
So we lose our money, and then we lose the land itself because we can't afford to buy it. The source used a phrase that really stuck with me, the rentership society.
It's a heavy concept.
It is. It paints this picture where we all just become renters in the towns we grew up in, temporary occupants, subject to terms set by some algorithm in a boardroom 1,000 miles away.
It creates this fundamental instability. If you don't own the ground under your feet and you don't control the money, you're vulnerable. If the algorithm says, raise rents 20%, rents go up 20%, there's no negotiation.
This feels so inevitable. Like, how do you fight that? Is this just destiny? We just have to accept being renters in our own lives?
And if the answer was yes, this would be a really depressing deep dive. But the source is adamant on this point. This is not destiny. It is a systems problem. And systems can be redesigned.
Okay, good. I needed to hear that. So what's the redesign? Are we talking about everyone churning their own butter and banning Amazon?
No, and that would fail anyway. People like convenience. We're not turning back the clock. The solution proposed is actually much more subtle. It's all about education and intention.
Okay, intention. But we have to talk about the math. How do you reverse the physics of a 95% leak?
We have to talk about the multiplier effect. It's a concept in economics that sounds boring, but for a local economy, it's basically magic.
Okay, break it down for us.
When you spend $1 at a big national chain, that dollar is gone, vanishes. But when you spend that same dollar at a locally owned business,
it stays in the bucket.
It doesn't just stay, it recirculates. You buy a coffee from a local roaster. The owner uses that dollar to pay her barista. The barista uses it to pay a local mechanic. The mechanic uses it to buy a lunch at a local diner. That $1 might change hands 10, 12 times inside the community.
So that $1 is doing $10 worth of economic work.
Exactly. And every time it changes hands, it's generating local tax revenue for schools, for parks, for roads, all without raising tax rates. The source actually calls this GDP doubling.
Doubling. That's a bold claim.
But the math checks out. If a town can shift even a modest amount of spending, like 10 or 20% back to local businesses, the effective economic activity can double. And you don't need any new money to do it.
That's the empowering part. We don't need a federal grant or some billionaire to save us. We just need to change the path of the money that's already in our wallets.
It's an arbitrage play. You're taking advantage of the difference between extracted capital and circulating capital. The community's return on investment is enormous.
Okay, but here's the practical problem. Shop local is a nice bumper sticker, but it's hard. How do I know if I'm actually making a difference? I can't see the multiplier effect.
And that is the missing link. Historically, we've been flying blind, but the source introduces a specific mechanism for this, an entity called BW Town.
Right, BW Town. This felt new. It's not just another buy local campaign.
No, it's infrastructure. It's described as a mix of nonprofit leadership and AI-driven tech. The entire goal is to give a community economic visibility.
Like a dashboard for the town's economy.
Exactly. Corporations have these incredible data dashboards. They know where every penny goes. Towns have nothing. BW Town uses data to show a community, look, here are your leaks. Here's what we're spending on energy, on food, on supplies that are all being imported.
So it makes the invisible visible.
And once you can see it, you can act on it. You can say, hey, if we all shift just 10% of our grocery budget to these local producers, the data shows we'll generate exactly $4 million for the school district this year.
That completely changes the psychology. It's not just a vague, do the right thing. It's, here's the specific return on your investment.
Exactly. It incentivizes cooperation. It gives people the data they need to make we the people a functional idea again. It's using technology to rebuild the village, not to replace it.
It's reclaiming the tools, using the algorithm for us instead of against us, like that.
And the goal isn't just more money. The goal is stability. The goal is a town where your kids can afford to live, where your neighbors aren't forced to move away.
It goes right back to that anxiety we started with. The antidote to anxiety is agency, believing you can actually affect the outcome.
And realizing that power isn't in Washington, it's in your debit card.
So, to sum this all up, we started with a nation built on a cooperative blueprint. We drifted into a system of extraction, the leaky bucket. But we still have the resources, those billions of dollars, and now we have tools, like BW Town, to actually switch back.
It's a really compelling narrative. We feel powerless against these huge global forces, but the math says we're the ones fueling the machine.
Which means we can change the fuel.
Or just redirect the hose. We the people implies a choice. It's an active statement.
I think that's the key. The source ends on this point, that the divide between the owners and the renters will only get wider if that 95% leakage continues.
The trend line is very clear, unless there's an intervention.
So here's the question we want to leave you with today. We know about the leakage, but we also know about the billions of dollars of power sitting right there in your town.
The opportunity cost of ignoring it is huge.
It is. So what if you viewed your monthly spending not as consuming, but as investing in your neighbors? What would change in your town tomorrow? If you knew that buying that local coffee wasn't just a transaction, but was the difference between a neighbor staying or leaving, would you do it differently?
It's the question that changes everything. Realizing your spending is a vote for the kind of town you want to live in.
The ballot box isn't the only place you vote. You vote every time you tap your card. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.